Max Weber was a German theorist who is credited, along with Emil Durkheim, as one of the twin founders of academic sociology. Max was born in 1864 and he passed away suddenly from pneumonia at the age of only 56 in 1920. He was the eldest of 8 children, and his father was a lawyer and civil servant, and he was a politician, while his mother came from a wealthy French background, according to uh, what we know of his parents. His father was a member of parliament in Prussia, and he was also a member of the German Reichstag. And at the family home is where Max would receive a sort of education through overhearing the conversations of the different public figures and scholars who would visit his father. Now, according to the biography, and most of the biographies of Max Weber are kind of based on the original biography that was written by his wife, Mary Ann, and it was only published 6 years after he passed. And his father was described as being a very selfish and pleasure-seeking individual, in contrast to his fanatically pious mother. It was this contrasting personalities in the household that kind of framed some of Weber's his thoughts and feelings on things. He couldn't help but his relationship with his father wasn't very good, and so in fact, when his father passed, part of that is what helped lead to the mental breakdown that Weber had around that time. Now, Weber had many theories. He was a cultural theorist, so he had theories on culture and economics and of course religion. But for this video presentation, I'm going to focus on two of his main theories: his Protestant ethic and the forms of religious authority that he described and recognized. Today, it seems like everyone knows about the concept of charisma, but in the days of Max Weber, when he came out with these theories of religious authority, the word was mostly unknown in the United States by secular society. The word had its origins in Greek, where it means favor freely given or gift of grace. But Weber expanded that by explaining that charismatic authority resides in an individual that is set apart from ordinary people and treated as if they are endowed with supernatural, superhuman, or otherwise exceptional powers or qualities, be that the power to heal or exceptional heroism on the battlefield. And because of this, followers are drawn to these people. These figures do not necessarily have to be religious figures, but you do, because you do find these in religion, but they also, when they are found in religion, these people usually operate outside the traditional authority or the rational or legal authority. For instance, the traditional authority might be a patriarchal system, like where kings have their authority passed down through birthright, or the rational legal authority would be the legal authority would be done um, from an elected leader, like say the President of the United States. Charismatic authority would be held by people such as Jesus or Buddha, people that others follow because they possess this charisma that Weber talks of. But this power only lasts until the charismatic individual is gone or they can no longer prove their power. Because one of the center posts of this that holds up this charismatic authority is that it must be maintained by being proven over and over again. Now, once the charismatic individual is gone, either they've lost their mojo, so to speak, or they have passed away, that charismatic authority cannot be maintained. It can transform, and often may, in the form of a traditional authority where a successor is named or assigned, and eventually, like in Christianity, it can become a rational or legal authority. Jesus may have been the charismatic leader, but after his death, the followers turned to a traditional authority in the form of disciples. And then the church eventually grew and continued to evolve until today it's maintained by legal or rational authority in the form of the layers of organization and bureaucracy involved with organized religion. Now, pardon me while my notes load here. This is a concept that I can see the value in understanding. Any student of religious theory or any student of history should understand this kind of theory that Weber poses here, because both fields, historical and from a strictly religious point of view, have experienced these different types of authority. And we continue to witness today even this charismatic authority with, like, some political leaders whose followers actually believe they were sent by God or that they are on a divine mission. So I think it's important to understand and get a full grasp of what this means and what it can entail. Now, the other theory of Weber's that I wanted to explore is the Protestant ethic, the theory that the expansion and evolution of capitalism that helped transform Europe from an agrarian society into a capitalist society was a direct result of the Protestant Reformation. Now, in brief, Weber linked Martin Luther and especially John Calvin with this change in mentality of their followers in regards to salvation, individual purpose, and a shift in the aesthetic life away from those who exile themselves from the world to the aesthetic life of the monks, to a living in the world aesthetic that the followers of Calvin and other Protestant faiths emerged with. Weber described the changes in thinking of Luther, the changes in thinking that Luther and Calvin and all of that links to the expansion he believed of the expansion and evolution of capitalism. Now, for me, I can see a bit of this point in this kind of work, but I feel that he offers nothing. Of course, he's a theorist, so he offers theory, but I see no scientific or even historical approach to the subject. It's just more of an opinion that this change in religion and this change in religious thinking about work, wealth, aesthetic life, that all this was responsible for the societal change that created modern capitalism. While some may argue that he does present a historical look, I believe that he suffers, as many of our theorists that we've explored so far do, by a bit of bias influenced by the religion that he was raised around, rather than any empirical evidence they use. This is more of a belief that he believes that this Protestant ethic led to capitalism. And I understand that he attempted to write from a non-religious point of view, but I believe his background couldn't help but influence him when it came to this subject. That's not to say that his theory is not valid. It is just based on the readings, my opinion is, and some further study, but I believe that this theory could benefit from a modern examination. I'm sure it has, alongside with historical evidence from across the European nations and other nations. Because Weber uses this theory to explain why the economies of the Oriental societies did not embrace capitalism and take off like the European ones did. So again, he's not fully Eurocentric in his opinions, but I believe that he does kind of think that Protestant faith is what made society better, rather than accepting that it could be several different aspects, including modern inventions, a move away from the feudal system. I believe there are historical things that could come into play that not just have the basis of this expansion of a capitalist economy based solely on religion. Now, when it comes to religion and the economy, there's another theorist that comes to mind, and comparisons between them continue to this day. Karl Marx offered that society, the economic portion, of course, influenced religion and other superstructure and institutions, where Weber believed that religion, modeled by his Protestant ethic, influenced society. Some saw it going one direction, according to Marx, from finance to religion, and some believe that Weber saw it as religion to society. But I think also Weber saw it, as we saw in some of the other material, that it went both ways. It went back and forth between religion and society. Now, for me, Weber's theories about the Protestant ethic seem to be steeped in his beliefs in this historical influence of the Protestant Reformation on the economy and on society rather than historical data. And I believe I read one criticism paper that explained that, yes, the Protestant Reformation could help explain the acceptance and the expansion of capitalism in Germany or say England, but it couldn't explain it in Spain because you didn't have that burst of the Protestants in Spain. So I believe it would help to have a little bit more of and I think if you look at it, it may not hold up, but it does do a great job explaining the difference between this from a economist point of view of how Protestants started to look at the economy and look at wealth and looked at the aesthetic life that they were being asked to lead. Max Weber wrote many essays, and not just on religion, history, the economy, lots of fields. But with the focus on his work in the religious field, there were essays on the social psychology of world religions, where he discussed religious virtuosos and the three forms of religious authority, and religious rejections of the world and their directions, a discussion on aestheticism and mysticism. But what was to be his largest work in the field of religion was a planned 8-volume series on the economic ethic of world religions. This is where he was going to look at other religions across the world and kind of see their impact on the economics and on society. He had planned that the series would start with his Protestant ethic as volume 1, and over the course of just a few years he had written The Religion of China, The Religion of India, and Ancient Judaism before he passed away suddenly from pneumonia. Now, his works continue to be read and analyzed and critiqued over 100 years afterwards. I believe the impact of Max Weber's theories, and the ideas that he presented continue to be important to the study not only of religious theories and the study of religious theorists, but I believe it's important to understanding historically some ways of that thinking were going on, and the way especially his charismatic authority and the forms of religious authority. I think that's important to understanding some of the things that have happened over the history of our civilization, and it helps to understand religion because these figures pop up ever so often. You have people like, say, Mother Teresa or Mahatma Gandhi, or even Martin Luther King Jr., who may not have supernatural powers, but they're seen as having a divine calling or an exceptional aesthetic life that they try to lead and try to offer as an example of a better life. So I think understanding Weber's theories helps us to understand not only our history, but our religion as well. Thank you.